here, right on the side of the road, you'll see that the edge of the road, you have edge of the road and then grass. You do have to be a little bit careful. For those of us that are used to a huge side area on the road, there's nothing on almost every inch of this route.
Yeah, there isn't a big shoulder, but they do a very good job of letting traffic know that the race is going on. And even though this wasn't part of the course last year, I felt very safe on the entire course during the competition.
Yeah. Now, Heather, you look just fantastic here. One of the things that you're going to notice about this route, and you can talk a little bit about, is I don't remember, a section of like a half a mile, maybe a little bit at the very beginning, but when you get out in these loops, there's not a half a mile section that's flat.
Yeah, it's pretty rolling. I mean, and it will definitely take athletes that haven't watched the video or haven't previewed the course, I think, by surprise, because there is a lot of climbing. And I loved being able to come out and ride the course again, to know when to shift, to know when to downshift. Here, I'm going into my biggest gear, and you're flying. And so there's a lot of places where you're going slow, but there's a lot of places where you're really picking up speed. Now,
Heather, we're at the beginning of the route here. You're feeling good. By now, you've kind of got the cobwebs out as far as the swim is concerned. You're feeling really good. When do you typically hit that first bit of, not low, but you're pretty much on a high now? When do you start to really think that kind of dipping a little bit, that you need to bring it back up?
Well, Stu, I never do, but I'm watching my nutrition and hydration right now already. I'm making sure, as we have talked about during this video, that I'm getting in those calories already now, so you don't get that little dip.
So you really don't? I mean, I think that's a lesson to be learned for a lot of those people out there, age groupers, that you really don't hit that low?
Well, I have. Trust me, I have. I mean, there's been many Ironmans where I have, bonked because I've dropped my nutrition and done something incorrectly. But for the most part, I've done it enough, and I know how many calories I'm taking in, at what point, and you get it down to a science. Okay. And you know how many calories you need, and I start getting those calories in right away. And I think because this course takes so much shifting, it's up, down, twist, turn, that people get focused on the course and they forget about the hydration and the nutrition. And so that's something, just a reminder when you're watching this course for athletes is, pick out spots where you know that you're going to take in your nutrition.
Now, so you're hitting nutrition right away. Do you go on a time schedule, or do you say, like you said, to have people watch specific points that they know they have to do something, or maybe you need to have completed 3 or 4 bottles by this point? How do you do that?
I'm on a time schedule, and so I know at a specific time what calories I'm taking in, whether that's a liquid calorie or a solid calorie. This here, Stu, is the bridge that I think that we wanted to mention. There are a lot of potholes on this bridge, and you're going really fast at this point. I think, I was probably going, 50, and some of the fast guys are going to be going 60. And to just really be careful for those potholes.
Right. This is beautiful. Isn't this just amazing? I know when Heather and I were out there taping, it was just incredible looking at the scenery, because it does change. You can see here beautiful formations on the left, and a lot of times you have tree-lined areas. Do you enjoy the course during the race, or are you more focused on the race?
Fantastic. And for those of you watching this video, this section is the out and back section, and where the camera kind of did a little turn, that was the turnaround, and now I'm heading back, and this is a significant climb that you climb for a while on the out and back section.
So how you're still feeling good? I think that's amazing. I know I hate to go back to that point, but when you say that you don't have any lows, I think that's something we can really focus on. So really, if your nutrition is there, is that something that you teach age groupers, that you really want to keep your nutrition going, keeping your game plan going, so you can really focus on 112 miles rather than going in these segments?
Well, definitely. And Stu, every athlete is so different. And, there's a lot of athletes that I coach, running, biking, swimming, but there's athletes that I coach just for the nutrition portion. They have a coach that, they're working with that maybe not giving them enough of the nutrition that they need, and it's a huge part. If you don't get your nutrition right, and you can be as fit as anything, and you're not going to have the day that you want if you don't get that nutrition right.
Now, what are the favorite parts? Let's say if we chop this video up into 4 segments, or the route into 4 segments, do you like equally the first, the second, the third, and the fourth part of the ride, or do you like the entire ride?
Actually, I will point out my favorite section is the up and down, twisty, turny section about halfway through the loop. This is the out and back still, and I actually find that hill is one of the most challenging. It's probably one of the longest climbs, and it's challenging for me. Just as an athlete coming from Florida, I find that climb is pretty significant. And you can see it kind of levels off, and then it's climbing some more.
Yeah. Now, one of the things I want to point out, I was just truly amazed at. They always talk about when we're watching you from behind here, and you can see that you're just perfectly steady on your shoulders and that. And what we notice throughout the day is that it stays like that. You notice a lot of riders, especially when they get tired, they start rocking a little bit. Talk a little bit about the importance of posture and just how you're sitting in that saddle. Actually, now you're climbing a little bit, but even talk about that.
Well, here I'm climbing, and what I'm doing is I'm pulling up on the bars and shifting the muscles that I'm using. And I like to stand. Like I said, my heart rate doesn't jump when I stand, and so I'm using different muscles, and so it helps me to stand. Sitting and spinning up a hill is great. It's fantastic. And the whole time I'm riding, I do want to you want your upper body to be as still as possible, and that really comes from having a strong core. I have all of my athletes really doing a great core program. 3 days a week, you want to strengthen that core and that back, and that allows you to be able to use your lower body and not be bouncing your upper body around. And I also think that, the stiller you are, that helps you when you get to the run, because your body overall is less fatigued.
Okay, now what kind of cadence are we talking about? Do you look at your cadence? Are you kind of a 90, cadence average? What is it for you during the ride?
I actually spin probably around 92. I actually used to be a masher, which is, just pushing a big gear, 85. And I found that when I got off the bike, my legs were a lot more fatigued when I rode a lower cadence. When I run, my cadence is around 90. And so if I'm going to run at 90, I should bike at around 90. So if somebody bikes at 80 and they get off and they want to run at 90, they're going to have a real hard time after being on the bike for 6 hours, switching that momentum, that same rhythm. It's going to be really hard to jump into a different, cadence pattern.
Right, so really you're trying to do swim, or not actually swim, but the bike and the run right at 90 all day long. So really it's just your run is essentially an extension of your bike.
Correct.
Yeah. Now this is just, I can't get over this course. I know I've said it many, many times, but it's beautiful here. Again, you can look at Heather's shoulders just perfectly still. So basically all the power that you're using right now is going into moving that bike forward rather than wasting some energy here.
Yeah, I love the whole course. But this is just, the fences on the side and the trees, and it's just beautiful, and a lot of people, I think, didn't realize before they see this just how beautiful it is out here.
Yeah, now let's talk a little bit about the crowds that you're going to see. Are there specific points during the day that you see more crowds out here? How does it work?
Yeah, we just finished the Outback, and you can see that we're back on the main road. And what this course does is we're going to take a right-hand turn, and Sue and I will point that out. We're going to do a loop there. Right here, 393. This is where we're going to do a full loop. And one of the points on the loop is through a little town, and there's a big crowd there, which is really nice. But there's not huge crowds out on the bike course. I think a lot of people stay in town and they're there for the run.
Now let's talk a little bit about kind of mentally where an athlete should be. We've done the out, we're going to be doing 2 loops, and then we're going to do it back. What would you suggest? Kind of give us some keys for athletes to be thinking about right now before we take this left-hand turn here.
I think one of the main things, and we've talked about it a little, it's just the pacing. Because this is a challenging loop that does have some hills, it's just pacing yourself. A lot of people seem to kind of hit the wall that second loop, and I think if you go out a little bit more conservative the first loop, you have a higher degree of success that second loop where the hills are going to feel like they grew.
One of my absolute favorite